Today we go through another O.R.E report and see what raw findings are ready to forge.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysart.
In the forge of enrollment, some tools lose their edge. Once, class rank was a sharp measure, quick, clean, comforting in its certainty. But the metal has cooled. Schools are laying that tool aside, and what's left is quieter, harder to shape. Now, we must read the grain differently, trace rigor and context like veins in raw ore. Our work becomes slower, truer, and more human. This is the first entry of O.R.E, Observations on Recruitment and Enrollment. Raw findings ready to forge. O.R.E 2, When the Anvil Starts Thinking. AI in Enrollment and Admissions Management. Across the forge, a quiet shift has hardened into a new normal. A year ago, AI in enrollment felt like experimentation at the edges. Now, 2/3 of enrollment professionals report using AI-driven tools, and nearly 90% of institutions are running modern CRMs with predictive capabilities baked in. AI isn't a side project anymore. It's in the same furnace as recruitment strategy, financial aid, and student success planning. We see CRMs with auto-draft emails and summarized application essays, chatbots that can nudge admits at midnight, algorithms that recommend how to distribute aid to hit both headcount and net revenue. The forge is hotter, it's faster, and it's even more precise, but the heat cuts both ways. On one side, higher applications, stronger yield, reclaimed staff time, and more efficient use of aid. On the other, murkier data governance, algorithmic bias, black box decisioning, and questions about how far persuasion should go when it's delivered by a machine that never sleeps. AI has really moved from a novelty tool to a coworker in the enrollment shop. You can see that in my first book, the Enrollment-or chapter. The question is no longer if we'll use it, but how we'll live with it and what it changes. Let's get to the raw findings ready to forge. Reading the signal. The core signal. AI is shifting enrollment work from handcrafted, counselor by counselor practice to industrial scale personalization and optimization. 3 deeper pattern changes are worth naming. The backlog to real-time furnace. Inquiries used to pile up like scrap metal. It's stacks of unreturned emails, voicemails, half-finished applications. The AI-enabled CRMs and agents now attack that backlog in real time. Every inquiry gets touched, every started but not submitted application gets nudged, and every FAQ gets an instant answer. The furnace runs continuously instead of in batch cycles. 2. From institution first to model-mediated decisions. Yield targets, aid strategies, and even reading priorities are increasingly model-informed. Predictions about who will apply, enroll, persist, or graduate are no longer spreadsheets in the back office. They're embedded into the day-to-day workflows. The hammer still sits in human hands, but the model is sketching the strike pattern. From we talk to we orchestrate. Communication has shifted from counselor-driven outreach to AI-orchestrated sequence across emails, SMS, chat, and even microsites like portals. Counselors still form the relationship, but the always-on layer of AI ensures continuity, timing, and consistency. The craft is less about typing each message and more about designing the engagement alloy, the tone, cadence, and escalation rules. At the same time, the research surfaces a second, quieter signal. Only about half of institutions using AI report having explicit privacy and security safeguards in place. Nearly half lack a plan to upskill staff on AI. Equity and bias concerns are acknowledged, but often addressed informally rather than structurally. In other words, the forge is modernizing faster than the safety rails are being bolted on. That's the tension to hold. AI is not just a new tool, It's changing how institutions' intent gets translated into action. If the intent is fuzzy, or even the guardrails are weak, the heat can warp the very mission we're trying to serve. Evidence in the O.R.E. When we break down the O.R.E, three main veins emerge: automation, prediction, and engagement. Automation. AI-augmented CRMs are the Forge backbone. Modern CRMs like Slate, Salesforce, Element-451, and others have become the digital backbone of admissions. Adoption is widespread. Roughly 90% of colleges now use a modern CRM with embedded analytics, up from under 30% just a decade ago. AI features are no longer exotic. Slate's AI reader can summarize essays and recommendations. Generative tools suggest content for emails and text outreach. Voice assistants can place automated calls. AI platforms are delivering outsized gains. Texas State Technical College saw a 30% increase in applications and a jump in application to enrollment conversion from about 25% to almost 90% after implementing an AI-driven platform and streamlining the application system. Clayton State and others reported a 7+% enrollment bump while cutting staff workload by 75% on routine communications through AI agents. The pattern. Automation doesn't just save time, it actually expands capacity. Small teams are managing larger pools with more timely, personalized touchpoints than were possible with manual workflows alone. 2. Prediction. Models steering yield, aid, and class shaping. Predictive modeling has become mainstream for enrollment forecasting and financial aid strategy. Nearly 9 in 10 universities report using predictive modeling to improve outcomes like yield or retention. Models assign probabilities of application, enrollment, and success based on historical, academic, demographic, and behavioral data. Case studies show what happens when these models are fully leveraged. Yield and aid optimization. At New Jersey Institute of Technology, predictive yield analytics and aid optimization helped enroll 173 additional freshmen without increasing total aid. This is actually striking the middle more precisely with the same financial hammer. In an age where the sticker price is increasing, but the average price paid is decreasing, this is truly a new path. Another institution using optimization tools recorded a 33% increase in net tuition revenue while lowering its discount rate by 6 percentage points, leading to stronger class outcomes and financials simultaneously. Operational efficiency and student experience. Richard Bland College cut application review time by 80% through an AI-enabled platform. The same decisions that took weeks moved to days, enabling faster, more responsive service. At the same time, research from Brookings and IHEP underscores the risk. These algorithms inherit the biases of the data they're trained on. Models have been shown to overpredict failure for Black and Latinx students who ultimately succeeded, raising serious questions about their use in admissions and aid decisioning. Used as a compass, prediction improves planning. Used as a gate, it can actually entrench inequality and inequity. 3. Engagement. Chatbots, agents, and generative content. The most visible layer of AI is where students feel it directly. It's the chatbots and virtual assistants who can provide 24/7 Q&A, nudge students about next steps, and route complex cases to humans. Georgia State's Pounce bot cut summer melt by about 21% and contributed to a 3.9% increase in freshman enrollment in its first year. Forsyth Tech's AI chatbot resolved nearly 80% of inquiries on its own, increasing the answer rate from just over half to 85%, while reducing call volume by 30%. AI agents for lead nurture and yield. At Southeastern University, an AI teammate named Cora contacted 100% of new leads, converting a measurable share into applications and saving tens of thousands of minutes of staff time. Forsyth Tech saw a 12% enrollment surge in one term after integrating AI agents throughout the student journey. Generative AI for content at scale. Higher ed marketers rate content generation as the most effective AI use case so far, with nearly half calling it effective or even very effective. Platforms like Element-451's Copilot are generating one-to-one personalized emails and texts at scale. tailoring messaging to program interest, background, and behavior, as well as driving double-digit open and click rates. The net effect. AI is making high-touch engagement possible for thousands of students simultaneously when it's thoughtfully designed and governed. 4. Governance gaps and ethical risks. Running alongside these gains are stark governance gaps. Only about 49% of institutions using AI tools report having explicit measures in place for data security and privacy. Around 52% cite privacy and security concerns as a barrier to adoption of AI, and 44% lack a formal staff upskilling plan for AI literacy. Ethical concerns surface in three main forms: privacy and FERPA risks, when student data flows into vendor systems or external models without clear controls; algorithm bias and fairness issues, when predictions are used to shape decisions about admissions, aid, or outreach in ways that may disfavor historically marginalized students; transparency and student trust, when AI-mediated communication feels manipulative or deceptive, or when the actual logic behind aid and admissions recommendations can't be explained. The O.R.E is rich, but it's streaked with slag that must be separated deliberately. Implications for the Forge floor. So, what does this mean for the day-to-day work on your shop floor? 1. Your enrollment craft is becoming a human-machine duet. Counselors, directors, and VPs are no longer just artisans. You're also system designers. You're deciding what gets automated, what remains handcrafted, and where the machine's recommendations stop and human judgment begins. Capacity constraints are less about volume and more about design. With AI, the limiting factor shifts from, do we have enough people to send all these emails, to, have we designed the right journeys, the safeguards, and the escalation paths? The bottleneck moves from execution to strategy. Your data choices are your enrollment philosophy. The variables you let into your models, the targets you optimize for, whether that's headcount, net revenue, student body mix, academic profile, and how you actually use the scores, support versus selection, will concretize your institution's values in codes. The Forge recipe becomes policy. 4. Student expectations are being reset. Once a student has experienced 24/7 accurate answers and same-day responses from one institution, delayed or fragmented communication elsewhere feels like a mismatch. AI-enabled service is quietly becoming table stakes, especially for Gen Z and adult learners juggling work and family who get these same experiences outside of higher education. 5. Equity outcomes will diverge based on governance. Institutions that layer equity audits, human oversight, and clear non-uses on top of AI will likely see better access and trust outcomes than those that rely on the off-the-shelf optimization. Two schools can use similar tools and land in very different ethical places. The enrollment leader's job expands to include AI stewardship. As director, AVP, or even VP, you are now implicitly the chief AI enrollment officer, responsible not just for the outcomes, but how those outcomes are produced, including what's automated, what's explainable, and what's fair. The Forge isn't just about heat and force anymore. It's about the blueprint that tells the hammer where to fall. Moves to test. Here are the concrete moves you can test in the next 3 to 12 months to harness the heat without warping the metal. 1. Map your AI footprint. Goal. Move from, we know we have some AI, to a clear inventory. List every tool in your enrollment stack that uses AI or advanced analytics: CRM, chatbot, predictive modeling, aid optimizer, fraud detection, virtual tour, etc. For each, document what decisions or communications it influences, what data it consumes, including any sensitive categories, who owns it internally, that's functional and technical leads, and whether students are aware of its role. Use this as your baseline for governance, training, and risk assessment. 2. Redesign one funnel segment with AI plus human pairing. Goal. Demonstrate value in a bounded space. Pick a high-leverage segment such as started but not submitted applications, admitted but not deposited students, or adult learner inquiries. Design a journey where AI handles first-touch nudges, FAQs, and reminders on multiple channels. clear the threshold route students to humans. Maybe that's financial aid complexity, express concern, or just a high yield, high need flag. Counselors receive concise AI summaries before outreach. Measure changes in conversion, time to first contact, and staff time reclaimed. Treat this as a controlled forge test before scaling. 3. Install equity guardrails around predictive models. The goal: use models as support, not gatekeepers. Establish a simple rule set. Predictive scores may prioritize support and outreach, but they may not be used as a sole criteria to deny admissions or reduce aid. Any use of predictive scores in selection must be reviewed annually for differential impacts by dimensions. Partner with institutional research or a trusted external to run bias checks. Are some groups systematically scored lower for success or yield, even when outcomes suggest otherwise? Test alternative model specifications that remove or de-emphasize problematic variables. Document these choices. You're tempering the steel, not just heating it. 4. Stand up a lightweight AI governance group with the goal: create a venue for ongoing oversight without bureaucracy paralysis. Convene a cross-functional team. This could be enrollment, financial aid, IT, security, IR, student affairs, and ideally a student voice. Charge them with reviewing new AI tool proposals and major changes, setting minimum privacy and transparency standards, approving red lines. This is the no fully automated admissions decisions, no use of social media surveillance for recruitment, etc. Publish a short, plain language statement of how we used AI in enrollment. Meet quarterly, keep minutes, make decisions visible. This means internally and, where appropriate, externally. 5. Launch an AI literacy and co-design sprint for staff. Goal: shift staff from anxiety to agency. Run a series of hands-on workshops where staff see exactly how key tools work, remove all vendor mysticism here. They practice prompting generative AI for drafts they then refine. They review and critique sample outputs from chatbots and agents for tone, inclusivity, and even clarity. Invite counselors and frontline staff to help. Name your AI assistants, co-write the base tone and message templates, and define escalation rules. This is when the bot must hand off to a human. This turns AI from a mysterious black box into a shared forge tool, shaped by the people closest to the students. 6. Build student-facing transparency into your experience. Goal: protect trust while keeping service high. Add simple disclosure lines, where appropriate, such as, this chatbot is AI-assisted and supervised by our staff. Some of our emails are drafted with AI and reviewed by real humans before sending. Offer clear ways to opt into human contact, talk to my counselor instead, and provide feedback on bots or automated messages. Actually monitor the reaction here. You may find that students care less about who typed the first draft and more about whether they feel seen, supported, and respected. 7. Define your institution's optimization boundaries. Goal: align the algorithm with your mission. With the senior leadership, answer explicitly: what are we optimizing first? Is it net tuition, enrollment of specific populations, retention, mission fit? What outcomes would we not accept, even if the model says they improve revenue? Maybe this is a drop in Pell-eligible enrollment or even reduced diversity. Are there segments we are committed to serving even if they yield lower or cost more? Then work with vendors or internal analysts to encode these priorities as constraints, not just nice-to-haves. The forge recipe belongs to you, not the algorithm. Blueprint breakdown. As the forge cools on this issue, here are the core patterns to carry back to your floor shop. AI is now a coworker, not a pilot project. It quietly shapes outreach, aid, and decisions every day, whether you've named that reality or not. The bottleneck has shifted from effort to design. The real constraint is no longer staff capacity, but how well you've designed journeys, guardrails, and escalation paths. Your data choices are your values in code. What you optimize for, and what you refuse to trade away, will determine whether AI amplifies or erodes your mission. Equity depends on governance, not good intention. Without audits, red lines, and oversight, predictive tools will follow historical bias lines straight into the future. Trust is your most important metric. Students will tolerate bots and models if the experience feels clear, fair, and humanly accountable. Use this as your pocket template. Name where AI already lives in your Forge, decide what it's allowed to touch, and make sure your ethics are as intentional as your enrollment targets. The tools will keep evolving. Your blueprint is what keeps the metal true. And an open question. As AI becomes embedded in every hammer strike of recruitment, aid, and yield work, a core question lingers. Where is the ethical line between personalized guidance and algorithmic pressure in AI-mediated enrollment? And who in your institution has the authority to draw and redraw that line as tools evolve? That's a conversation for cabinets, councils, and Forge floors alike. Forge note. The Forge used to be defined by what our hands could reach and what our minds could remember. Now, models whisper forecasts before we can even swing. Agents answer before we've read the email. The anvil hums with data we can't see. But we feel the effects in calmer inboxes, fuller classes, and budgets that breathe just a little bit easier. Yet the metal still remembers the values of the smith. If we let AI chase only the hottest flame, optimizing solely for more, faster, cheaper, it will harden along the grain lines of old inequities. If we temper it with intention, equity, and transparency, we can actually shape a new alloy. Scale without erasing the human signatures that make this work more than just a numbers game. The tools have changed. The responsibility is not. Every signal starts as raw ore, and the work begins when we strike. Let's forge something extraordinary together. Source O.R.E. Education Dynamics and UPCEA, Marketing and Enrollment Management AI Readiness Report 2025. Survey data on AI adoption, perceived effectiveness, and governance gaps in higher ed marketing and enrollment. GoEdMo, EDU Insights on the evolution of enrollment management from 2014 to 2025, including CRM and predictive analytics adoption trends. Technolutions Slate AI feature documentation, an example of AI reader, generative content, and automation features inside a widely used admissions CRM. TargetX Salesforce case studies. Moravian College. Evidence of CRM automation doubling inquiries and application and supporting class growth through personalized outreach. Element 451 case studies. Forsyth Tech, TSTC, Southeastern University, and others. Detailed outcomes on application growth, yield boosts, enrollment surges, and major staff time savings from AI-first CRM and engagement platforms. Brookings Institute analysis of enrollment algorithms, vendor case results, NJIT, EAB clients, and critical discussion of the risks of algorithmic decision-making in admissions and aid. Mainstay, AdmitHub, research on Georgia State University's Pounce chatbot, randomized controlled trial evidence of reduced summer melt and improved enrollment via AI texting. IHEP conversation with Dr. Denisa Gandara, empirical findings on bias in predictive models and recommendations for more equitable use of analytics in higher education. If you enjoyed today's episode, please grow the guild by rating and reviewing the Innovation Forge podcast or sharing it with a colleague who needs to hear about these creative crossovers in education. The best review or comment every month will get an ebook of my book, of course. Particularly great ones will also be featured on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Remember to strike true, and let's forge something extraordinary together.
We used to work by the daylight, stacks of names on a crowded floor. Every inbox like a mountain, every question at the door. Now there's a hum in the furnace, a new glow in the wire. There's a coworker made of circuits standing with us in the fire. It answers when we're sleeping, it reaches who we'd never find. But every line of code we're keeping draws a map of our own mind. Coworker in the fire, hammer made of data and desire, striking where we tell it to go. Every number we are feeding writes the gospel of our meaning, 'cause your data is your code of honor, you know. Yeah, your data is your code of honor, you know. We used to trust just a feeling, who might yield, who might go. Now the model draws a circle round the ones it says will know, but there are shadows in the sample, old cracks running through the steel. If we don't name them in the blueprint, they'll be written in who we seal. It whispers, here's your revenue, here's the class you say you need. But if equity's not in the recipe, we're just polishing old greed. Coworker in the fire, hammer made of data and desire, striking where we tell it to go. Every metric we are chasing shapes the world that we're replacing, 'cause your targets are your quiet credo, you know. Yeah, your targets are your quiet credo, you know. Are we building just a brighter ledger, or a wider open door? Every spark is a decision, falling on the anvil of the floor. We gave the chatbot our questions, let it speak in our own name. Students texted in the midnight, it replies without a flame. If the tone turns cold or hollow, if it pressures more than guides, then the trust we say we're guarding starts to vanish from their eyes. So we write the rules around it, where it hands the case to us, 'cause no machine can carry all the weight of human trust. Coworker in the fire, hammer made of data and desire, striking where we tell it to go. If we hide behind the algorithm, we're still authors of the schism, 'cause your choices are the forge you're standing, you know. Yeah, your choices are the forge you're standing, you know. Hold up the steel to the light, can you see all the lines in the grain? Past and present in the shine, quiet stories of our gain and our pain. Run a test on every edge, does it cut who we claim to defend? If the numbers start to bend the mission, we rewrite, we begin again. We are more than what we model, more than yield and revenue. If the flame forgets the faces, then the work forgets the truth. Tell me what you're optimizing, tell me what you'll never trade. In the logs and in the dashboards, is your promise kept or afraid? Coworker in the fire, hammer made of data and desire, striking where we tell it to go. We can temper it with meaning, guard the ones who trust our screening, 'cause our duty is the core alloy, you know. Coworker in the fire, we decide how high to raise the wire, what will open and what will forego. Every model, every letter, we can make the metal better, when our ethics are the mold we pour it into, you know. Yeah, our ethics are the mold we pour it into, you know. There's a glow above the campus, a soft pulse in every line. The anvil starts thinking with us, but the judgment's still on our side. We can shape this heat for justice, or let it harden what's unjust. In the sparks between the human and the code, we decide what deserves their trust.